Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your guy, Seth Guru Baxter with Makerspar, where we are creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. In the light of this last election, there has been a lot of political discussion. And what Makerspar has been looking forward to doing is to become a bipartisan platform as a part of our mission in creating those leaders, where we are bringing guests who are part of that political machine. Some of them are trailblazers, some have been a part of the process. And continuing with yesterday's theme, as far as interviewing candidates who have run, today we have with us a candidate who ran for the House of Representatives from Colorado. His name is Jeff Livingston. Would you please Jeff, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your origin story. You're in Colorado. So if you don't mind, share with our audience a little bit about your beginnings.
Sure. So I've been pretty much a fan of politics my entire life. Since the moment I could read and write and understand, I just enjoy the interplay between people exchanging ideas. That kind of naturally grew into a curiosity into what the process was like. I had a friend who was a politician who urged me for a very long time to run. I was resistant because even though I like seeing that kind of thing, like I like watching the debates, I'm not necessarily a debater or somebody who likes engaging in debates because there's a lot of feelings and stuff. It's like, I don't like taking things personal. I like loving everybody. And like, in that vein of thought, it just doesn't feel right to me to be, arguing back and forth. And so, yeah, I didn't want to do it. And so one day he just said, you know what, I've been coming at this the wrong way. I'm just going to have you go out to an event, experience the event. And I bet you when you come back, you're going to want to be a politician. And okay, I'll take you up on that bet, but you're not going to win. So I went to a forum where there were a couple of candidates that actually were running for office at the time. And not only were the candidates great people, but the room was like almost filled with this electricity, like this drive to do. And all of that energy was pushed in a direction of wanting to do something positive. So when I experienced that, I was like, you know what? If there's this many people that are willing to put their all on the line to make the world a better place, and they are welcoming me into this group, I mean, who am I to say no, especially when I want to do the same thing? So here I am, running as a politician, even though I had no aspirations before maybe 2 years ago.
And specifically the House of Representatives, is there a particular reason you were drawn to run for that office?
That is the closest office besides city council to the people. I wanted to be literally a go-between between the regular everyday working Coloradan and the big scary government. I just wanted to be that mediator and kind of bridge the gap and show the government that people are really needing a helping hand, like they're really struggling right now. And then I can show the people, hey, you guys have access to this powerful body that can make your lives better through me. So, yeah.
And it sounds to me, you literally wanted to be a representative in that sense. And that was the closest way to build those relationships, to be a representative of the people. And that's the epitome of what we're hoping for in the persons who choose to run for office. Now, a question, going back a little bit, have you born and raised in Colorado your whole life?
Oh, no, sir. I actually grew up in, Okay, my origin story is a little complicated there because both my parents were in the military. I was born in Oklahoma and lived there for a couple of years. And then from those couple of years on, I was basically traveling the world until my parents got out the military. And so my heart has always been in Oklahoma, but I have literally lived in 30% of the states in this country and 2 or 3 others as a result of my parents moving around.
Oh, so the typical thing was coming from a military family as well. They used to call us the military brats or something of that
Yeah,
sort,
yeah,
because
yeah.
traveling and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
So, in particular, the community that you serve. What were some of the most important issues that you really felt a need to address? What were some of the main priorities for you?
Gotcha. So when I originally started my campaign, I was really into making the world a greener place, as you might imagine, as most young Democrats are. I found out that when I was going around talking to voters, there were quite a few people that were like, "Yeah, solar is nice, and that technology is cool, and clean energy is a great situation, but we are literally just struggling to live day to day. Like we can't afford our houses, we can't go out and buy groceries, we can't um, have a wage that will guarantee that we have a retirement when we get done working for you know however many 30, 40, 50 years. So get that stuff first and then work on all that other stuff. And so I kind of pivoted my campaign at that point to focus on those things: affordable housing, better wages, and just making sure that the education system set people up for success from a young age. So those three things became my big focuses, but I was not. I was very rose-colored glasses when I first started.
So, they, are they still tinted with roses after this recent election?
Oh, I can absolutely say they are not at this point. So, I was very, very. My eyes are wide open now. I'll say that.
So, with your eyes being wide open, can you describe to us, since those are important issues, and I'd like to go back to some of them, what is your leadership style? What's your philosophy of leadership?
So, I have always been under the impression that no matter who I'm speaking to, whether they be four-star generals in the army or whether they be the street sweeper, moving on down the line, I wave at them, what have you. No matter who I'm talking to, at the end of the day, these are just people. Um, I treat every individual like a person because that's how you find out what they need and you can better address needs that you know about. So if I know about a person's needs, if I understand how they operate, if I understand what they want in life, and that dynamic is good between us, like we can talk about that stuff openly, then I know exactly where I want to go when I go to uh, a hearing in local Congress. Like I know what I'm going to talk about when I get there because I talked to Sally down the street who really wants to see this playground get built in her community. Now I know that and I can express that, as opposed to what I feel like is happening now, that a lot of the federal level politicians and even some of the local level Colorado politicians are more or less focused on what they can do for themselves more so than what they can do for the everyday person. And I got sick of seeing that, basically, and I wanted to change.
So am I correct that some of your leadership philosophy is definitely being a listener and then moving forward from there as an observer and a listener?
Yes, that is absolutely accurate. My mother used to tell me very often that I have two ears and one mouth, so I should be listening twice as much as I'm speaking. So I try
Oh,
to
I
do
like that. I like that. I really do. With that in mind, there's taking information as far as concerns of your constituents or soon to be constituents and listening to those. What have they expressed to you? You have your passions as far as political issues, but what have they expressed to you are most important to them that you maybe didn't have an opportunity, maybe they weren't in line with yours, or you didn't know and you wanted to bring that out? What have you heard from the people that they wanted to see you do and or their leaders do?
So the biggest thing I mentioned a little bit earlier was housing. Colorado's housing dynamic is a really, really strange one in that the developers and the contractors have a ridiculous amount of power when it comes to what they are allowed to build and decide to build and how they zone. And all of that stuff makes it really difficult for people to find an affordable house. And so my biggest mission going into this next election is essentially just making sure that the power is put in the hands of the people so that we can let those contractors know, hey, this is where we actually need housing. Hey, this is where the square footage that we actually want to live in. This is the types of programs and services that we want around our housing. That kind of stuff needs to be delegated more to the people. That power needs to be given back to the people, as opposed to the companies that are trying to make the most money. They don't necessarily always have our best interest at heart. And so that was the biggest thing that I've understood so far with respect to people telling me what they want and what they need, is just having a bigger say in what's happening to housing in the area, because we currently have a much lower volume of houses than what we need, and they're just not being built for several red tape reasons that don't need to be.
Mm. I'm curious, can you elaborate a little further on that with the red tape, what they don't need to be, if you don't mind?
So, for instance, the house that I'm living in now, it is entirely too much for my family's needs. I lucked out and got that house when the market was at the lowest interest rates and all that kind of stuff. But when interest rates went up, for instance, the sizes of houses did not change. A business person who is trying to sell houses to the everyday American would say, "Oh, okay, so now that the interest rate is so high, we need to make smaller, more affordable houses." But the literal opposite has been happening. They're building bigger houses in richer neighborhoods and charging more money for those. They are selling those houses to people whose job it is to conglomerate as many houses as possible for their multimillionaire employers, and allowing those houses to be rented out and never purchased. One of my favorite things about the American dream from the time I was a little kid was the fact that if you work really hard, you can own something at the end of the day. You can have something that is yours. Slowly but surely, that dream is being taken away by people that have interests not in making sure that the people are well housed and that they can have something for themselves, but they want to have all of that power for themselves. The red tape specifically is they'll block affordable housing in certain areas, usually black and brown neighborhoods, because it's not as profitable, I guess you could say, to put housing there, even though okay, that I'm gonna get into speculation here. I'm gonna come back. So
Okay. And that's okay. This is the place. This is the place for it.
I mean, I am nothing if not a peacemaker, and I try to keep the waves that I make specifically related to making people's lives better. But yeah, the act of putting houses in places where people don't want them or can't get to or can't afford to live in, it doesn't make any sense for people who actually care about selling houses to individuals. So yeah, I've never noticed that that trend being one that was conducive to, affordable housing. And Colorado is no different in that sense, because housing is still super expensive. I'm halfway out of my house because the interest rates and stuff are going through the roof. My property taxes went up $1,200 last year alone. So it's getting ridiculous. And so just that dialogue being ignored, like people have gone to the House floor in Denver, and lobbied dozens of times for people to get more affordable housing in areas where people could actually live, and it has been ignored. So yeah, my biggest mission has become to make that that still small voice of the people heard better in the halls of power, I guess you could say.
The halls of power. I like that. I don't know that a number of people really get uh, how some of the red tape challenges are to create affordable housing, and how it can be really a simplified process. So I'm really impassioned about that in particular myself. And I guess one might not think that Colorado, one of the most beautiful places that we all think about, Colorado in the streamy sense, would have such an issue.
Yeah, so it has definitely become a more pronounced issue in the past few years. Like, I feel like things changed maybe 2 years after I moved here. Like, it was when I first moved to Colorado, it was extremely easy to get a house. We literally went online, talked to an agent, and said, "This is the house that we want." She said, "You want to come see it?" We said, "Yeah, we'll come see it." Put down the down payment, and we were in that house within a month and a half, and it was a
Wow.
beautiful, smooth, easy process. We moved a little while after because the house that we had um, was kind of far away from the people that we wanted to live near. We had a bunch of friends from church and things like that, and they're like, "Yeah, you're so far away." We'd have to travel like 45, 50 minutes to an hour to get to see them, and we're like, people want to buy our house now, and there are houses being built right over there beside you guys. Why don't we just make that transition? So we ended up transitioning at that point, just because it seemed like a natural move when the market was good for selling, and buying houses was fairly easy because the new developments at that time were such that you could get a new house easily. So after we got into that house, things just kind of degraded. Um, the housing market here kind of degraded. The Just generally speaking, it got harder to buy a house here, and to maintain a house here, and to keep up with property taxes, and all that stuff just kind of spiraled out of control.
Wow. And that was just in a short time frame, you said.
Yeah, we have been here since 2017. So just from 2017 to now, it's I'd say 20. Oh yeah, right around pandemic time, right when the pandemic was getting really heavy, is when
Mhm.
housing markets just shifted for the worse, we'll say.
Wow. Yeah, again, I think sometimes we have, when you think California has it's such a big presence itself in the affordable housing arena. Other places, I see sometimes it would be a challenge to see that they might have some of those same issues.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, I wasn't quite clear in Colorado. What area are you in? Are you in Aspen, Denver?
Yeah, so I am in very, very South Colorado Springs. Like, I am almost in a town called Pueblo, which is like very um it's like there's like a small gap between cities. So there's like Denver, then there's Aurora, then Colorado Springs, and then Pueblo. We are so far south that depending on the electric company, we will get bills for different cities. So yeah.
That's kind of funny. So sometimes you wouldn't know where your
Yeah.
electric bill. That's kind of interesting.
Like, all right,
Yeah.
what
So
city are we in this time?
I know. I find that very interesting. Now, so one of the other issues that really was a big one, in particular, this last election, was healthcare. Can
Mhm.
you elaborate on your stance on healthcare?
So as long as I've acknowledged that healthcare was an issue that could be improved in the US, I have always been a proponent of why not just pay taxes, and have those taxes pay for our healthcare. I did not like when I first started following politics. I was maybe 7 or 8 or something like that, and I didn't necessarily have the resources because the internet was basically brand new. Putting a date on myself, but yeah, the internet was brand new, and I didn't have the resources to look around for figuring out if other countries had that kind of system. I hit middle school and like very, very early high school, and the internet was really, really catching on. AOL was a thing. You had a little disk, you put it in the thing. I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. Yeah, so
That's okay. I'm dating myself by saying I remember.
yeah, so we would use our little AOL disk and get on the internet, and I found out that, oh, there's every single country that is established and technologically advanced has a system where where they don't have to pay for healthcare. Well, except through taxes. Like, they don't come out of the hospital for an operation with $200,000 in medical debt. That just doesn't happen. So what was different about here? Long story short, I found out that, generally speaking, the healthcare system is privatized, and that's a lot of the reason why, healthcare outcomes are not as great as the rest of the world, and why it's so much more expensive and things like that. As far as my specific healthcare stance, I believe that healthcare should be a human right. I don't know if you are familiar with Bernie Sanders. I mean, I'm fairly certain you would be, but Bernie Sanders was a big proponent of
Absolutely.
healthcare being, oh yeah, yeah. So of healthcare being a basic human right, and I am in that camp. I believe that there should be no situation where somebody is worried about losing their house because they had to go get an operation that would save their life.
Healthcare as a human right, you said. I had a follow up to that one moment.
Okay.
Pardon me. As a human right, meaning, just so I can have clarity, meaning it would be a part of a flat tax system, or just in general as a part of where taxes should be sent to, when you say as a human right. Now, I've been familiar with Bernie Sanders' position on that. How are you figuring it would be managed financially as a human right?
So the first thing I would want to do is put my phone away because I'm getting insane numbers of notifications. Sorry about that. The first thing I would want to do is I would want to make healthcare less expensive. Something that Joe Biden did that I thought was one of the best things that he did in office was to make it so that medical facilities could negotiate for drug prices and things like that. Pharmacies and whatnot could have the ability to say, hey, this is how much this should cost. Otherwise, we're going to go overseas and get it. With that framework, I would want to build an entire system based on finding the best value for the regular person taking the medication. So out of 10,000 drugs, if 99% of those drugs were terribly priced in the U.S., I want to let the people that distribute drugs and things like that have the ability to go, all right, this is $2 in Europe and it's $57 here. What are you going to do about that? Otherwise, we're just going to go to Europe. Like, that's the first thing I would want to do. With the savings from just drug prices going down alone, I would want to allow for taxes to actually pay for medical procedures and things like that. I want basically to bring the cost of healthcare down first to a reasonable level, and then I would want to put into effect something like universal healthcare to allow for healthcare to be taken care of just across the board. And what that would do, it would mitigate the Republicans' talking point that essentially healthcare would be too expensive to make into a system like that. And I would want to make sure that the costs stay low by making sure that when lobbyists come to say, hey, this affordable drug thing was a really bad idea, we want you to take it back, that they can the representatives can send them packing because they already let me see, I did a really bad job of communicating that last point. There was
no, not necessarily I was following.
So one thing that I forgot to mention in this little latter part there, I had a thought process some time ago that money in politics is probably not the best for regular Americans, for regular people. And so I thought that it might be a good idea to have a donation fund, let's see. For instance, let's say the United States gives every individual in the country $5 to donate to whatever cause that they want to donate to. Um, just $5 between several 100,000 Americans, 130,000 Americans, or what the voting age people in the country, however many of those there are, would be enough to drown out just about every special interest group in the country. And so now the incentive for legislators is not only to serve the people because they can make money, through that act of actually serving the people. They would have the ability to also gain influence and power by the concept of people actually being behind them, as opposed to having to kiss up to billionaires to, make ends meet and
Fund that.
whatnot. Yeah.
Mhm. I actually found that very interesting. I think you did a great job explaining that. I know it's very controversial as a topic, is universal healthcare and et cetera, due to and the privatization. So your
Mhm.
perspective is very fascinating. I don't know that a number of people understand some of the complexities that are involved with the financial incentives to help make healthcare affordable. So it's very interesting in your thoughts on that. Going along with that, healthcare does tap into innovation and technology.
Mhm.
And we at Maker's Bar have interviewed a great deal of AI tech people and know a great deal of that. Where are you seeing things like that go? What's your stance on innovation and technology, funding it, or some of the challenges that we're seeing with AI coming about? Give us an idea where you're seeing that fit into you as an elected official, and or just what you see that you can participate in to navigate this new world we're living in with the advancements happening so quickly.
So, first and foremost, I wanted to say that generally speaking, I think the direction of AI and technology recently has been kind of moving towards serving companies more so than people.
Mhm.
Like, I remember when I was younger, like the service industry, like you were being served, you were actually getting a tangible benefit from the technology, or from the waiters, or from the servers, or from the food. Like there was something that you could quantify that justified whatever cost there was. Um, that mentality, that mindset, has kind of eroded a little bit in industry in general, companies in general, specifically with relation to things like uh, applications like phone apps and things like that. There has been a push for the data from those services, like when you collect data um, from a person when they're setting up an account, their email and their phone number and all that kind of stuff. There was once a strong incentive to keep that stuff within the purview of that company, because if it leaked, there was always a big stink about it, and you could lose your company or your revenue just as a result of not having that well locked down. Nowadays, information breaks, like hacking and all that kind of stuff, is so common that people almost expect it. And I
I
feel
think
like
that's very true. That's very
yeah,
true.
absolutely. So I feel like that dynamic has become such that companies are no longer as concerned with what benefit they're giving to the people. They're more concerned about how much money they can make, compared to their competition. And the first thing I would want to do with respect to technology is take that incentive from uh, making the most money and selling the most data, to making a service that actually serves. And yeah, I don't necessarily have a lot of input on how I would do that, because that's like a more federal thing, and I'm a local level politician. But in my opinion, the incentive should be pushed back towards being a service for humanity. And I believe that would put a lot of the bigger, more existential issues with respect to technology to rest. We wouldn't necessarily have to be scared that AI is going to take over the world, or whatever the newest conspiracy theory is, because that service is transparent. It is open source. It is uh, easy to use. It is understandable. And yeah, the the less complicated and scary something feels, I feel like the better technology it is. The easier it is to get a handle on, the easier it is to utilize, the easier it is to uh, make your the easier it is to utilize to make your life better, the better technology it is. And so that would be my first thought on technology and where it needs to go. Is it needs to be more beneficial to the people that are using the service.
And I think that's quite clear. Actually, along those lines, it makes me think during this last campaign with some of the issues we've already mentioned, what would you say was with the rose colored glasses on? What would you say was what experience do you feel you really took away from this last election relative to some of those issues you mentioned? The
That is
biggest lesson, and it could be bad, it could be good, or maybe it could be one of each. But if you really thinking about the experience you had.
so. My experience overall through the campaign was, generally speaking, really, really positive. People want to they they want to talk, and they want to hear themselves talk, and they want to express their feelings and their emotions, and they want to make sure that you know everything about them. And all you asked was, "How are you today?" And this is a 2 hour
Right.
it's a 2 hour conversation. And I say that because people people across the board that I've seen in Colorado really, really deeply care about what is going on in the world around them. Now, they might not necessarily have all the exact facts and data. They don't know which bill changed this or what have you, but they do care about what's going on. And because they care about what's going on, it made it really easy um, to want to be the best representative that I could be. And that takeaway kind of made me, consider doing this for the long haul. Like when I ran this first time around, I was like, okay, I might not run again because I want to be like a city council member or something like smaller, so I can, get used to politics first and that kind of thing. Um, Everybody that I told that plan to was like, no, what are you doing? You're the best representative. Like you actually care to speak to us. Please keep going. So yeah, that was the biggest lesson for me, was that people really, really deeply care, whether they're Democrat, Republican, independent, unaffiliated, all that. None of that mattered. Once you talked to them and listened to what they were saying and empathized with them, yeah, that's all you really needed. Now, what I learned that was more of a negative with respect to politics, specifically in Colorado, is there are some very fringe individuals, like people that are kind of on the outskirts. Like this is not even remotely the majority, where they would disparage an idea before even hearing it. They would be less inclined to be open to new viewpoints or be willing to understand somebody else's perspective. I would say 4% of the folks that I spoke to were like that. And in those
How do
cases,
you, if you don't mind me interjecting, how did you get past that?
um, I would usually try to um, start at the base level. Like I would try to start at the very bottom. Like when I went to knock on doors, I would, hey, how you doing? I'm this guy. I'm running for this, and I would do that spill. The first question everyone asks, regardless of their political affiliation, is, "Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" Um, that question was the first big hurdle I kind of had to get over, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me what political affiliation you have. What matters to me is that you want to help people, that you want to do what the government is supposed to be doing, which is serving the everyday person. And so that first hurdle was, figuring out, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm a Democrat," and getting the door slammed in my face, I would say, "Yeah, so I believe in ideas. I believe that no matter who has the idea, if they are willing to make it happen, it doesn't matter if they have a D or an R in front of their name." And 9 times out
That's
of
right.
10, people would be like, I appreciate that thought process, because before I was thinking, this, that, and the other, like, because you're with this affiliation, you only want to do this. And if you're with that affiliation, you want to do that. And it's like, no, I've met Republicans that are legislators here. Although I will admit they are more rare today, that genuinely deeply care about people and genuinely deeply want what's best for the country and for the state and for the cities. Um, if that can be found, no matter what your political affiliation is, then in my opinion, political affiliation really doesn't actually matter. Your ideas, how you're going to execute those ideas, and whether or not people want those ideas is all that should matter. And uh, has not been the main focus for a while, but I believe that's all that should matter is, what are your ideas? How are you going to make it happen?
And I think you said a really vital point. I do believe that, and I've encountered legislatures and officials that sincerely, with regardless of a DNR in front, they do want to find sincere changes, real changes to help people. And I do think sometimes that gets overlooked. There are persons like yourself that have integrity and are sincerely interested in representing the best interest for people. And I think that sometimes get overlooked, in particular to this last political season, with so much emotion involved. There was not some persons who were running for office didn't necessarily get heard, and they are those who are really trying to do something. Along those lines, pardon me, along those lines, who would you say was a person you looked up to politically, and or a mentor that really inspired some of the changes that gave you inspiration to become a part of this process? And they could be more than one, and they can be alive or transition.
Okay. So I am going to sound super cliche here, but the biggest eye opener to what politics could be was when Obama took that oath of office. Like, he was every bit the person that I thought needed to represent the country in the time that he represented us. That stated, I'm not saying that, any politician is perfect, but he was the closest thing to what my ideal politician was. And so that he would be somebody I look up to. There was another gentleman that ran here that I knocked doors for. His name was Yemi. He was also a very influential person in my life. He's the person who kind of sidebar introduced me to my political friend who got me into this whole thing. So, yeah.
And was there anyone of a historic nature that you found some, well, Obama's definitely historic, more previous, more ancient, any of those who you found some inspiration through?
Let's see. So I had a very interesting thought process when it came to Bill Clinton. A lot of people thought he was super debonair and smooth and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, that is accurate, and he does do some. He made the economy pretty steady. What I never really understood was how somebody of that level of accomplishment managed to stay as popular as he did for as long as he did. There are still people. Yeah, there are still people that I talk to who I ask, okay, who is the best president? And they're like, oh, in my lifetime, it was Clinton, hands down. That kind. I always was curious about how that influence was maintained for so long, even up to this day, since he was president when I was younger than I am now.
That's we're going to stick to that. I like that. It's kind of like the new term. I was 2 years old when I found this out. Right. I'm going to utilize that. I like that a great deal. So that being the case with Clinton and Obama, I'm very interested to hear some of your thoughts as far as your future vision. And what's your future vision look like as far as your political aspirations? I know you touched on it a bit as far as moving forward to run for office again.
Mhm.
But even with that, if you can give us a little bit of insight to that.
Sure. So this go round, I plan on running for the same House seat, the same area, um, partially because you have to run where you live, but also because the people that I met here, like I know that there are great people everywhere. I met dozens of great people while my parents were in the military, while I was in the military, you know, that I've met dozens of people in other countries that are amazing, but it's just something like tangible in Colorado Springs, in this particular district, in the voices and the eyes and the sentiments of the people that lived here that I haven't felt anywhere else. And I feel like if I can get into a position where I can help this group of people succeed and you know keep myself together and stay uncorrupt or whatever, then uh, I can be the voice that amplifies that, hey, Colorado is a pretty awesome place, and we're an awesome place because we are governed by people who care about the people that govern them. So yeah, my future political aspirations, running for the same seat, making sure that I'm a better candidate than I was before, make sure I win this seat this time around. Um, at the end of the day, I just kind of want to be a beacon for the rest of the world. Like, this is what leadership looks like. This is what a community looks like. This is what it means to have a government that is of the people, by the people, for the people. That concept is what I want to embody in both myself and the people that I lead. So yeah, oh man, that got really interesting. Okay.
I thought it was great. So you really want to stay within House of Representatives. Any political aspirations after that?
So that all depends. Like, if I happen to win my seat and then I find out that I do not have the capacity or the ability to lead beyond that, I am perfectly fine with staying here and making sure that this is the best district in the entire state. If it so happens that they say, oh, this guy has the capacity to do whatever he can lead the world or something, I don't know, I might go to like a federal Senate seat or something like that. But at the moment, I am perfectly content being right here and representing the folks that I am just so enamored with.
Absolutely. Now, who is Jeff Livingston? Now, that question can be very general, but it's also really specific. And sometimes people, pardon me, find it too broad. But tell us, who is Jeff Livingston?
Oh man, so there was a book report that I did when I was in fourth grade, and I don't even book report is a strong word. They wanted us to describe ourselves, and it was supposed to take up an entire page. Uh, as children, we wrote like 7 words worth of page, so I'm guessing that's why they. Anyway, long story short, what I wrote down then was I wanted to be um, hmm. I wanted to be. Give me a second here. I'm trying to work this out here because I don't like necessarily talking about myself very much. But like jumping into my childhood. See, this is how I know that you're a good interviewer, because I would not talk about this with anybody else. But
I
yeah,
appreciate
so
that.
the biggest things that were on that page was I wanted to be somebody who changed the world, and I didn't care what form that took, except that I wanted that to be a positive change. Um, that thought process became me wanting to be an engineer, because engineers build the future, or so that's how I was romanticized about it when the engineer came to bring your parent to work day. But yeah, uh, I want to be somebody who changes the world for the better, and that's who I am, who I've always been. Uh, that's me.
That's you. Family life?
Family life. Oh man. So I have the absolute most cute daughters of all time. So yeah, that's come fight me, bro. But yeah, yeah, cutest daughters. I have a wife of, oh man, of 15 years. This is 15 years. My goodness. So yeah,
Congratulations, brother.
I appreciate it. Man, I don't do that math often. I just say, oh, it's our anniversary. It's our anniversary. And then yeah, 15, my goodness. Anyway, so yeah, a wife of many, many years, two wonderful, almost teenage daughters. Yeah, I have always been very close with just all of the members of my family that that cared to stick around. I am notoriously difficult to deal with in general as a person. Like I'm sometimes awkward. It's like just generally socially awkward, and then I am sometimes very very hardline. Remember, I told you I was one of those outspoken Democrats when I was
Oh
younger.
yeah.
So that wasn't the best way to make friends or hold my family members around me. So I learned over time that had to that calm down a little bit, at least a little bit, so that I could maintain relationships and things like that. But yeah, no, uh, wonderful wife, wonderful kids. Yeah, family that loves me, or so they say. Even though sometimes, but yeah,
So they say.
yeah, but yeah, just yeah, good times. That was about it.
Does spirituality play a role in your politics or your life? Is there a form of spirituality that you would choose to share, or?
Yes, absolutely. So I was raised a Seventh Day Adventist, which means a lot of things to a lot of people. The, the the biggest lessons that I took from my faith specifically was that there is a right way and a wrong way to deal with people. Um, a right way and a wrong way to bring people to your way of thinking. Um, the Seventh Day Adventist Church for many, many years had done things the right way, or I would assume the right way, because the church was growing. People were receptive to the message. We did outreach and fed the homeless and all that kind of, like, all that stuff that you normally associate with the teachings of Jesus and all that kind of stuff. We were there and doing that for so long that I took it for granted.
Mhm.
I went to the military for about 4 years and I came back, and it was almost like the church had completely transformed into something I didn't recognize. And as a result, those benefits, those gains that they had made over so many years were eroding and are eroding. Yeah, just religion in general paints my world view uh, in a way that allows me to understand that people people are not as different as a lot of people believe. Like
Mm.
I've talked to people of all walks of life, of all faiths, of all nationalities and creeds about what I believe as an Adventist. And when I talk to those people and I convey what I believe to them, they're usually like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty legit. That makes sense. That love other people, be good to people, talk to people, be honest with them, that kind of thing." All of that stuff makes sense. But when you are in a position, specifically in a position of power, you have to be really careful to not let that power dictate how your um how adamant you are about those views to others. um yeah, we as a faith got really uh fist shaky, hand wavy, uh outspokenly angry, and I think that cost us a lot of the general progress we'd made, just as a result of people being like, I have 10,000 other things that I'm dealing with right now, and you're trying to add another one that's not even necessarily going to make my life better from what you're, from how angry you are. How am I supposed to be uh, expected to want to be part of this loving family community if the loving family community is not loving the family? So that's a
A
whole
great way
nother,
to put that. That's actually a great way to put that.
appreciate it. That's a whole nother
Absolutely.
sidebar. I have been uh, beating that dead horse for, oh, 15 years in my church. And even though I still consider myself an Adventist, I am not currently going to church.
So spirituality plays a role, and you operated through a religion. I get that, and it comes across, and I thought you did that very well. I think the term spirituality has different meanings for different people.
Hmm.
And I find that as a question, when one is challenged with or asked, where does spirituality fit in? It is a foundation to all of us in
Hmm.
whichever form it comes out, be it atheist, be it Christian, be it Buddhist. But it is a big role, and I believe, with we as spiritual beings. So it's just always a very fascinating way to discuss and have that. And I usually try and have that of my guests because I think sometimes, even if people might feel averse to your particular faith, not just you or I, but in general,
Hmm.
in with our representatives or elected officials and persons getting to know them, when they hear that you shared it, sometimes it helps them begin other portions of conversations and other and deeper methods. I'm sorry, different conversational pieces to getting to know each other. And I think sometimes that's one of the things that we should discuss as well. What is our spirituality?
Hmm.
So that goes back to your point where we are more alike than not.
Absolutely.
Now, with that in mind, is there a book that really has inspired you or you would suggest to people to read, that one that has impacted you?
Oh man, let me see if I even have it on my desk right now. Okay. So there is a book. There we go. Sorry. There is a book that I have been reading that is called Atomic Habits.
Mm,
Um, this book, are the words the right way? Okay. Well,
yeah, yeah.
it's by James Clear. But yeah, this book really kind
The
of
title is
granular.
pretty awesome itself. The title sounds very fascinating.
Oh yeah, it's basically how to develop a habit from scratch. That atomic, like it starts small
Mm,
and gets bigger. And so the the biggest part about that book that I enjoyed was that the way that I developed habits throughout my entire life was more or less uh, do them over and over again. There's pain involved. I had to force myself to this, that, and the other. I read through this book. I got to say, like 3 times now, and never before have I developed a habit of reading a specific book, but just reading that book makes me want to develop the habit of reading it because it's that good at conveying how to make things that you don't necessarily want to do, that you need to do, part of your existence, like part of who you are. So yeah, I would
all right.
recommend that book to anybody.
Great. Actually, fantastic suggestion. I definitely wrote that down because it just from the title itself told me, oh, yeah, this might be something I would be interested in myself.
Yeah.
Now, with Atomic Habit, with your political aspirations, pardon me, in bringing this to a close, what would you say is the message you want people to hear from you, inclusive of all of those things we mentioned here today?
We are all part of this same race. We are all part of this same goal. We are all in this uh, this place where we want to achieve something. We want to do something. We want to be something. Um, and you'd be surprised how similar those things are at the end of the day. Everybody wants to take care of their futures. Everybody wants to make sure the next generation is better off than the previous. There's these little granular, very nuclear things to people that exist in every person that, at least that I've talked to. Um, Understanding that those things can be a way to build relationships and build communities and build governments that can transform the way we think about what it is to be human is the biggest takeaway that I want people to have here. There's no
Well said.
small way
Well
to
said.
make
Well
change.
said. I didn't mean to interrupt. I
Oh
was
no, you're
hoping it
good.
was under my breath. I was saying just well said. It really harmonized with me. I really loved how you put that. I hope I didn't cut you short from your
No, no, you're good. I just wanted to make that this if we have those things, if we understand those things and know those things in each other, there's nothing we can't do as a society, as a culture, as a people, as a planet, that it's just we can do anything. And so just understand each other more, love each other more, be kinder to people. Just all of those things will help the world be better. There's no downside to loving the people around you. There's no downside to understanding
talking my
where people.
language. You're
Yeah.
talking my language. That is definitely my language. At the end of each interviews, I'm not sure if you've seen or not, and for years when I've talked to the young people I worked with, part of my message has been when they say revolution is coming. And so we turned it into this term of endearment and or kind of flipped what the revolution might be. And it's love-evolution, the love-evolution. And I try to end my podcast shows with that as a message to remind us the revolution you wanted is called the love-evolution. And that's the revolution of love, where we are dramatically giving people love and spreading love and continue that message. And it's not as hokey as some people might challenge it to think, or antiquated. It really is what is continually needed. We all desire love. We all want to give love, even if we're edgy person. You want to give love and you want to feel that back. So I really enjoyed the way you put that. Jeff, how may people contact you and get to learn more about you? And we would love to have you back when it comes to this next election cycle as well, and continue our relationship with you. But where can people learn more about you, your campaign, your efforts? Where would you like to give that information out?
Absolutely. So I have all the social medias now. I was never really a huge social media person, but what I would suggest is my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page specifically for my campaign, Committee to Elect Jeff Livingston. That is also my website, committee-to-elect-jefflivingston.com. I know it does not roll off the tongue, but there's a lot of Jeffs out there. There's also a YouTube channel that I started a little while ago to just kind of convey my thoughts in a more succinct manner. I don't have anything up on that one yet, but I plan on having a whole bunch of interesting stuff and talking to people about how they can make a difference in their community and that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are my main things. Let's see, I have an Instagram that I post on very rarely, but I can send that link to you because I don't have it off the top of my head. But
Okay. You said, I would definitely check that out. I was writing down. I want to get Jeff's Instagram. Now, I will say, if you see an Instagram come from me saying to connect as friends, some of the things you'll see on there is a hodgepodge of some of the adventures of wonderful people and insights I met. And I really find one of the social media aspects that has been great about the Instagram part, and there's other things we can talk about, it's how it's been bad. But one of the things that's great, I try and connect with people of similar mindsets and also completely different than myself. And I think that's one of the other ways we begin these conversations, to be able to grow to know each other more and spread that message of love, as we say. Jeff, I got to sincerely thank you for being with us today here at Maker's Bar. We have felt this was an honor to have you here on my show in particular. I want to thank you for everything that you're doing and being one of the real ones who are trying to make a difference to us. It sincerely comes across, my friend. And I'm looking forward to all the great things you're going to do in the future. I thought you were wonderful, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you again.
Absolutely. Look forward to speaking with you as well. This is a great podcast. Like I mentioned earlier that I listened to a couple of your episodes. As I was listening to each episode, I was getting more excited about coming on. I'm more and more nervous. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's going to be good. I appreciate you guys, man.
Absolutely. We really wanted to thank you very much. And we really do want to create an atmosphere where you feel welcome and you feel heard and you feel listened to. So that's definitely what we're trying to do over here at Maker's Bar.
Yes, sir. Well, you were successful.
Thank you very much. I truly thank you. So, dear family of our Make a Spark audience, thank you so much for tuning in today and taking part in this conversation where we're going with our elected officials and those who would seek office, getting to know who these people are and getting to build relationship and communication with them. We thank you for joining us. And remember, as I say, the revolution is the lovolution that we want. And it's going to continue to build and build through conversations like this so we get to know each other and be able to supply more love into this world. Thank you, Jeff Livingston. We're looking forward to speaking with you again. And on behalf of Maker's Bar, creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow, we look forward to seeing you next time, family.
Absolutely.
Love and peace.
Love and peace.